have a friend who's a pastor, and his name is Dave. And I recently watched a video that he filmed several years back from the Holy Land. And the short video, it was all about the 23rd Psalm. He used history, teaching, and actual video footage of the hillsides of Israel and Palestine to help me understand what the role of a shepherd would have looked like during the time that Jesus was born. And it was not what I expected. In my North American perspective, which is all that I've ever known, when I think of shepherds living in the fields and keeping watch over their flock by night, I can't help but picture the rolling hills of Minnesota farmland, grass as far as the eye can see. I picture beautiful trees with plenty of shade for those sheep. I imagine that there are ponds or lakes nearby with water when it's too hot. And obviously, there are barns for them to corral the sheep when there's a threat that shows up nearby. But that was definitely not the image for shepherds in Jesus' day. In fact, it's kind of ridiculous for me to have these pictures in my mind at all, whether I'm thinking about the 23rd Psalm or about the passage of the shepherds in the Gospel of Luke. A shepherd would have tended sheep in a really vast, arid climate. The green pastures that David wrote about in the Psalms would have been more like small tufts of grass, more sporadic, and therefore more valuable because they were in short supply to the shepherd who was simply trying to make sure that his sheep had something to eat. Shepherds, it turns out, were likely very young. Probably not the middle-aged gruff men with beards like we imagine them to be today. Thinking again to that really famous 23rd Psalm, David, who wrote the Psalms, was a young boy. Remember, this is the same boy who killed the giant Goliath with a single stone. So if we look at the Christmas story, the characters in this story, and we think about young shepherds living in a dusty field, tending to these sheep who were their only livelihood, it is definitely the last group of people we'd imagine being chosen to go see the baby Jesus, the Messiah. They didn't have any power. They didn't have any positions of authority that made them worthy to visit a savior, let alone to then go tell everyone about it. In another psalm, in Psalm 139 in the Old Testament, David, that shepherd boy, he writes these words to God with a sense of amazement and awe. He writes, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." David, I think, nudges all of us to realize that we are set apart by God in unique ways, and that is truly a great thing. You know this. None of us is exactly the same as another person. We might be parents, let's say, and we've got kids who we parented exactly the same way, but they live life completely differently. Or if you've watched any Hollywood depiction of robots ruling the earth, you know how terrifying it is that we might somehow be programmed to have the exact same thoughts and actions. We are all set apart by God. We're also set apart by God regardless of the social status we're born into. No matter what job we have, even if it's a shepherd in a dusty field. In Luke, I want you to notice how often the angel says you to the shepherds. Starting in chapter 2, verse 10, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." That angel could have made a blanket statement. A baby has been born and he is the Messiah. End of story. After all, the people had been waiting for hundreds of years to hear this news. But the angel said, "He's been born to you. This is the good news I'm bringing to you. This is an actual sign for you, as strange as that might be. And yes, you, young shepherds, are the ones who will go see him." I don't think it does us or anyone else good to try and sanitize the Christmas story, to somehow romanticize the image of shepherds and their sheep in a beautiful, calm, safe field. Because doing that might lead us to think that we somehow have to be at a point in our lives where things are beautiful, that our lives need to radiate a sense of calm, a sense of safety, in order for that Messiah to be born at all. But nothing could be further from the truth. Instead, this Christmas story reminds us that God sent God's Son to be with us, no matter the social status we have or don't have, no matter how much we think we know about God or about the Bible, no matter how much dust and dirt we feel like we're living in. God's Son has come for you.